The massive viewing screen of the Galactic Coalition's command center displayed thousands of dots representing various alien ships. Among them, a small cluster of green dots moved steadily through the darkness of space. These dots represented the entirety of humanity's latest expedition fleet. "Look at how tiny their ships are," laughed General Cax, his scaled skin gleaming under the bright lights of the command center. As the leader of the Coalition's defense force, he had seen many species try to claim their place among the stars. Humans think they can challenge us with such a small fleet. Around him, other alien commanders shared his amusement. The Coalition's command center buzzed with activity as officers from 12 different species monitored the movements of various fleets across their territory. The room itself was enormous, built to accommodate beings of all sizes, from the towering titans to the smaller swift species. Admiral James Walker stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth Ship Defender, watching the stars streak by. Unlike the massive ships of the Coalition, human vessels were sleek and compact. What the aliens saw as weakness, Walker knew was their greatest strength. His weathered face showed little emotion, but his eyes sparkled with determination. "Status report," he commanded, his voice firm but calm. "All systems running at optimal efficiency, sir," reported Commander Tom Reynolds from his station. "The fleet maintains perfect formation. Coalition vessels are tracking us, just as expected." Walker nodded. The humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, making them newcomers to the galactic community. The older species looked down on them, treating humans like children playing with toys they didn't understand. This attitude was about to cost them dearly. Back in the Coalition Command Center, a young officer rushed to General Cax's side. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the human fleet." "Explain," Cax demanded, his previous amusement fading slightly. "They're ships. They're different from anything we've seen before. The energy signatures don't match any known configuration." General Cax dismissed the concern with a wave of his massive hand. "All newcomer species think they can surprise us with their unique technology. We have ruled the stars for 10,000 years. What could these humans possibly show us that we haven't seen before?" The human fleet continued its advance toward the disputed sector, a region of space rich with valuable resources. Coalition law stated that any new species must prove their worth before being granted mining rights in such areas. Most species did this through trade or diplomatic channels. Humans, it seemed, had chosen a different approach. Lieutenant Mary Cooper monitored the tactical displays aboard the Defender. "Admiral, Coalition ships are moving to intercept. 3 heavy cruisers, matching our course." "Right on schedule," Walker smiled slightly. "Send the coded burst to all ships. Begin Operation Deception." Across the human fleet, captains received their orders. To any outside observer, nothing seemed to change. The small fleet maintained its course, its ships appearing vulnerable and insignificant compared to the approaching Coalition cruisers. "Sir," Reynolds spoke up, "shouldn't we power up our defensive systems?" Walker shook his head. "Not yet, Commander. Let them think they have us cornered. The Coalition's greatest weakness is their pride. Today, that pride will cost them dearly." The Coalition cruisers grew larger on their viewing screens. Each alien ship was at least 5 times the size of the largest human vessel. Their hulls gleamed with advanced armor, and their weapon ports glowed with barely contained energy. "Human vessels," a booming voice transmitted across all frequencies. "This is Coalition Commander Dex. You have entered restricted space. Your pitiful fleet is no match for our power. Retreat immediately, or face the consequences." Walker stood from his command chair, straightening his uniform. "Lieutenant Cooper, open a channel." "Channel open, sir." "This is Admiral James Walker of the Earth Defense Fleet. We claim the right of challenge as per Coalition law, Section 47B. Or are the mighty Coalition forces afraid of a few tiny ships?" The silence that followed was deafening. Walker knew he had them. Coalition law and pride would force them to accept the challenge, but their arrogance would prevent them from taking the threat seriously. "Challenge accepted," came the reply, filled with barely contained laughter. "Your bravery is admirable, but foolish. Prepare to be taught a lesson in humility." Walker sat back down, a small smile playing on his lips. "No, Commander Dex, you're the ones about to learn a lesson." He turned to his crew, their faces showing the same quiet confidence. "All ships, maintain current status. Let them get nice and close." The trap was set. Soon, the Coalition would learn why humanity had survived countless wars and challenges on Earth. Size wasn't everything. Sometimes, the smallest predator was the most dangerous. The 3 Coalition cruisers loomed over the human fleet like mountains floating in space. Their massive weapon ports glowed with bright purple energy, a clear show of force meant to intimidate the smaller human ships. Commander Tom Reynolds watched the tactical display with growing concern. Despite his trust in Admiral Walker, he couldn't help but notice how the Coalition ships were slowly surrounding them. "Sir, they're taking up attack positions." "Let them," Walker replied calmly, sipping from his coffee mug. "Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to let your opponent think they've already won." The main screen lit up with Commander Dex's face. The alien commander's scaled features twisted into what might have been a smile. "Last chance, humans. Turn back now, and we might forget this little incident." Walker set down his coffee. "Commander Dex, we're here legally under Coalition law. The disputed sector is open to any species that can prove their worth. We intend to do exactly that." "Prove your worth?" Dex laughed, the sound echoing through the bridge. "Your entire fleet would fit inside one of our cruisers. What could you possibly prove except human foolishness?" Lieutenant Mary Cooper's hands flew across her console. "Admiral, I'm detecting power buildups in their weapon systems. They're not just trying to scare us anymore." The tension on the bridge grew thick. Every crew member knew what was at stake. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, developing technologies that the Coalition couldn't even imagine. "All ships, maintain formation," Walker ordered. "Remember your training. Wait for my signal." The Coalition ships continued their approach, their massive engines pushing them closer to the human fleet. From their perspective, it must have looked like a pack of wolves surrounding helpless rabbits. Commander Dex's voice boomed again. "Since you insist on this foolishness, let us give you a proper demonstration of Coalition power. Target their lead ship's engines. Let's see how brave they are when they're stranded in space." Purple energy beams lanced out from the Coalition cruiser, aimed directly at the Defender's engine section. What happened next made every alien observer gasp in shock. The seemingly thin hull of the Defender shimmered as the energy beams struck it. Instead of exploding or breaking apart, the human ship absorbed the attack, its hull glowing briefly with a blue light. "Thank you for the power donation," Walker said calmly. "Lieutenant Cooper, show them what human ships can really do." Cooper's fingers danced across her console. The Defender's hull began to change, panels shifting and reconfiguring. What had appeared to be decorative elements suddenly revealed themselves as hidden weapon ports and defense systems. "Impossible," Dex shouted. "Scan those ships again." "What are they?" Reynolds smiled at his tactical display. "Sir, all ships report ready for Phase 2. "By all means, Commander," Walker nodded. "Let's show our friends what happens when you judge something by its size alone." The human ships began to move in perfect synchronization. What had appeared to be a scattered formation suddenly became a complex dance. Ships that seemed too small to be threats revealed hidden capabilities that made the Coalition commander's jaws drop. "All ships, execute Maneuver Delta," Walker commanded. "Let's show them why humanity survived all those centuries on Earth." The human fleet split into 3 groups, each moving with incredible speed and precision. The Coalition cruisers, massive and powerful as they were, suddenly found themselves struggling to track the smaller, more agile vessels. "This is impossible," Dex sputtered. "Your ships can't move like that. They're too small." Size isn't everything, Commander, Walker replied. Perhaps if you spent less time mocking others and more time learning, you'd understand that. All ships, Defense Pattern Alpha, show them what we can do. The human ships began emitting a strange field that interfered with the Coalition's targeting systems. Their small size, combined with their incredible speed and defensive capabilities, made them nearly impossible to hit. Sir, Reynolds reported with a grin, Coalition ships are showing signs of confusion. Their formation is breaking down. Walker stood from his chair, straightening his uniform. Send a message to all Coalition ships. They have exactly 1 minute to power down their weapons and open diplomatic channels, or will be forced to demonstrate exactly why humanity has never lost a war of survival. The bridge crew watched as panic spread through the Coalition fleet. Their perfectly ordered formation began to crumble as each ship tried to maintain a lock on the surprisingly dangerous human vessels. 30 seconds, Walker announced calmly. And Commander Dex, you might want to reconsider your opinion about small ships. Sometimes the deadliest predators come in the smallest packages. The silence in space lasted exactly 29 seconds before Commander Dex's voice crackled through the communication channels. This is some kind of trick. No species can build ships that move like that. Admiral Walker's response was to press a single button on his command chair. Actually, Commander, you haven't seen anything yet. All ships initiate Combination Protocol Alpha. What happened next would be talked about in Coalition space for centuries to come. The small human ships, which had already surprised everyone with their speed and agility, began to move in ways that defied conventional space combat logic. 3 ships smoothly glided together, their hulls seemingly melting and reforming. Where there had been 3 separate vessels, now floated one larger ship, bristling with weapons that had been hidden in plain sight. By the eternal stars, someone in the Coalition fleet whispered over the open channel. Lieutenant Cooper's console lit up with confirmation signals. Sir, all ships report successful primary combination complete. Power levels at 200% of normal capacity. The Coalition cruisers, which had moments ago looked so imposing, now faced something they had never encountered before. The human fleet had transformed. While still smaller in overall size than the Coalition ships, the combined vessels now possessed a deadly elegance that made the alien commanders very nervous. What are you? Dex demanded, his earlier arrogance replaced by clear concern. We are humanity's first line of defense, Walker replied calmly. Our ships are modular, Commander. Every piece, every panel, every system is designed to work both independently and as part of a greater whole, rather like humanity itself. Commander Reynolds brought up a tactical display showing the Coalition ships' power readings. Sir, they're charging weapons again. Looks like some of them don't learn very quickly. Then let's teach them another lesson, Walker nodded. All ships deploy smart swarm drones. From hidden bays in the combined human vessels, thousands of tiny points of light emerge. Each one was a drone, smaller than a human fighter but controlled by the most advanced AI systems humanity had ever created. The drones moved like a school of fish, creating complex patterns that made them nearly impossible to target. This is your final warning, Walker announced to the Coalition fleet. Those drones you see, each one carries enough firepower to disable a ship's primary systems. And thanks to your power donation earlier, they're all fully charged. The Coalition ships began to back away, their massive engines working overtime. But the human drones were faster, surrounding each cruiser in a deadly dance of light and technology. Impossible, Dex muttered, all pretense of superiority gone. Your level of technology, it should take centuries to develop. That's the problem with the Coalition, Walker responded. You assume every species develops the same way you did. Humanity didn't have the luxury of 10,000 years of peace. We evolved fighting, surviving, adapting. Everything we build reflects that history. Lieutenant Cooper's console beeped urgently. Sir, 2 Coalition cruisers are powering down weapons. But the third, She paused, checking her readings. Commander Dex's ship is charging its main gun. Predictable. Walker sighed. All ships, execute combination protocol beta. Let's show them our final surprise for today. The already combined human ships began to move again, but this time they were joined by the remaining vessels in the fleet. Metal flowed like water, systems integrated seamlessly, and before the stunned coalition forces, a single massive ship took form. While still smaller than a coalition cruiser, the combined human vessel radiated power in a way that made the alien ships look primitive in comparison. Every surface seemed alive with technology, and the energy readings were off the charts. What we showed you before. Walker's voice was dead serious now. That was just practice. This is a true human warship. Every system, every weapon, every defense mechanism working in perfect harmony. We call it the Unity Protocol. The massive human ship hung in space like a predator ready to strike. The swarm of drones continued their patrol around the coalition cruisers, a constant reminder of the threat they posed. So, Commander Dex, Walker stood from his chair, looking at the main screen where the alien commander's shocked face was displayed. Would you like to reconsider your position on tiny fleets? Or should we demonstrate exactly what this ship can do to your outdated cruisers? The response was immediate. Commander Dex's ship powered down its weapons, joining its companions in surrender. A wise choice, Walker nodded. Now shall we discuss those mining rights like civilized beings? Or do you need another demonstration of human ingenuity? The news of what happened in the disputed sector spread through coalition space faster than light itself. In the massive council chamber of the coalition's capital station, military leaders from 12 species argued loudly about the human threat. They tricked us. General Cax slammed his scaled fist on the table. Their ships were weapons of deception. The council chamber fell silent as a new hologram appeared above the central table. It showed the human fleet's transformation from multiple angles. The coalition leaders watched again as the small ships combined into a single deadly vessel. Deception. The High Admiral of the Swift spoke softly. No, this was not deception. This was innovation beyond anything we have seen in 1,000 years. Meanwhile, aboard the transformed human ship, now named Unity Defender, Admiral Walker was conducting negotiations with Commander Dex. The coalition officer had lost all his previous arrogance, replacing it with a newfound respect tinged with fear. Your terms are acceptable, Dex said, his voice carrying none of its former mockery. The disputed sector will be shared equally between human and coalition mining operations. Walker nodded, but Lieutenant Cooper's voice interrupted any response. Sir, multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Coalition signatures, it's their main battle fleet. The space around them, filled with hundreds of coalition warships. Each one was larger than the cruisers they had faced before, and their weapons were already charged. Did you really think, a new voice boomed through their communications, that we would let such a threat to coalition power go unchallenged? Admiral Walker recognized the voice. General Cax, I should have known you wouldn't honor your commander's agreement. Commander Dex was not authorized to make any agreements, Cax replied. Your ships may be clever, human, but they are still small. Look around you. You are surrounded by the greatest fleet in the galaxy. Walker smiled, pressing several buttons on his command chair. Commander Reynolds, show them what else Unity Defender can do. The massive combined human ship began to change again. Panels shifted, revealing new weapon systems that had been hidden within its structure. The swarm of drones, which had been quietly waiting, suddenly multiplied as each drone split into 2, then 4, creating a cloud of deadly machines that surrounded the human vessel. Impossible, General Cax shouted. Nothing can replicate technology that quickly. You still don't understand, Walker replied calmly. Every part of our ship is built using advanced nanotechnology. Every drone, every weapon, every system can adapt and reproduce as needed. Lieutenant Cooper's hands flew across her console. Sir, their fleet is moving to surround us completely. They're charging all weapons. Let them come. Walker stood from his chair. All systems, initiate battle mode Alpha. Show them why Earth never fell to any invader. The Unity Defender's hull began to glow with stored energy, the same energy the Coalition cruisers had fired at them earlier. The ship's surface rippled like water, forming new patterns and configurations that the Coalition's targeting systems couldn't lock onto. First rule of warfare, Walker announced to both his crew and the Coalition fleet: never use up all your tricks at once. The battle that followed would rewrite Coalition military doctrine forever. The Unity Defender moved like a dancer through space, its adaptive hull absorbing enemy fire and turning it into power. The swarm of self-replicating drones created shields of living metal that no Coalition weapon could penetrate. This is impossible. General Cax's voice had lost all its command authority. No ship can move like that. No technology can adapt that quickly. That's your second mistake, Walker replied as Unity Defender slipped between two Coalition dreadnoughts, its weapons disabling both ships with surgical precision. You assume there are limits to what's possible. Humanity learned long ago that the only real limit is imagination. Lieutenant Cooper's voice rang out with pride. Sir, Coalition ships are breaking formation. Their coordinated attack is falling apart. The mighty Coalition fleet, which had begun the battle in perfect military formation, was now in chaos. Their rigid battle doctrine had no answer for a ship that could change its shape, size, and capabilities in the middle of combat. General Cax, Walker's voice carried across all channels. Would you like to discuss those mining rights again? Or should we continue this demonstration of human adaptability? The response was delayed, but when it came, the general's voice had lost all its previous arrogance. Perhaps we should return to negotiations. Walker nodded to his crew, who had performed flawlessly. A wise choice, General. Though next time, remember, it's not the size of the fleet that matters. It's how you use it. The emergency meeting of the Coalition High Council was anything but peaceful. Representatives from all 12 member species gathered in their grand chamber, their voices echoing off the ancient walls. 3 defeats. The Builder representative slammed his metallic fist on the table. 3 humiliating defeats by a handful of human ships. This cannot stand. General Cax stood in the center of the chamber, his scales darker with shame. The holographic displays around him showed recordings of the recent battles, including the embarrassing retreat of his main fleet. The humans possess technology we never imagined possible, he admitted. Their ships can combine, adapt, and even reproduce in battle. In a dark corner of the chamber, the Mind Elder spoke softly, but everyone fell silent to listen. Perhaps we have been looking at this wrong. We see their small fleet as a weakness. But what if they only sent a small fleet because that's all they needed? The chamber erupted in chaos at this suggestion. Meanwhile, aboard the Unity Defender, Admiral Walker was reviewing battle footage with his command staff when Lieutenant Cooper burst onto the bridge. Sir, long-range sensors detecting massive energy signatures. The Coalition, they're assembling something big. Walker moved to her station, studying the readings. His eyes widened slightly, the first sign of concern he'd shown since the conflict began. They're bringing in their world ships, he said quietly. Commander Reynolds looked up sharply. The world ships? I thought those were just rumors. No, Walker shook his head. They're very real. Massive space stations converted into mobile fortresses. Some are bigger than Earth's moon. The tactical display showed 5 enormous objects moving slowly through space. Each one dwarfed even the largest Coalition battleships. The Unity Defender, despite all its impressive transformations, would look like a tiny dot next to these behemoths. Sir, Reynolds spoke carefully, even with all our technology, we can't fight something that big. Maybe we should call for reinforcements from Earth. Walker smiled, and there was something in that smile that made his crew sit straighter in their seats. Who says we haven't already? The main screen lit up with General Cax's face. The alien commander had regained some of his confidence. Admiral Walker, I assume your sensors have detected our approach. The world ships. Yes, we see them. Impressive. Though a bit slow, aren't they? Mock all you want, human, Cax growled. Your clever little ships won't stand a chance against these. Each world ship carries more firepower than your entire planet's combined military might. Walker leaned back in his chair. You know, General, there's something I've been meaning to tell you about why we only sent a small fleet to this sector. Before Cax could respond, new alarms blared on both human and coalition ships. Space itself seemed to twist and bend as dozens of points of light appeared around the Unity Defender. What's happening? Cax demanded. What are you doing? Nothing much, Walker replied casually. Just receiving the rest of our fleet. You see, those small ships you mocked. They weren't our main force. They were just our advanced scouts. The points of light expanded into swirling portals, and through each one came a ship that looked similar to Unity Defender, but each was slightly different, adapted for specific roles. Let me introduce you to the actual human defense fleet. Walker's voice carried pride now. What you've been fighting was just Battle Group 7. These are Groups 1 through 6. The Coalition world ships, massive as they were, suddenly found themselves surrounded by dozens of human vessels, each one capable of the same transformations and adaptations that had already proved so effective. Impossible. Cax's voice shook. Your species couldn't hide this many ships. Hide them? Walker laughed. We never hid anything. You just didn't ask. Too busy mocking our tiny fleet to wonder why a species that can build ships like ours would only send a few. Lieutenant Cooper's console lit up with signals. Sir, all battle groups report ready. The Coalition world ships are charging weapons. Well then, Walker stood, straightening his uniform. Let's show them what a real human fleet can do. All ships, initiate Unity Protocol Omega. Let's give the Coalition a demonstration they'll never forget. As the massive world ships prepared to fire, the human fleet began to move in perfect synchronization. The real battle was about to begin, and this time, no one was laughing at the size of human ships. The 5 Coalition world ships hung in space like metal moons, their massive forms blocking out the stars behind them. Surrounding them, the human fleet moved with perfect coordination, their ships dancing through the void like schools of deadly fish. Last chance, General Cax. Admiral Walker's voice was calm but firm. Stand down your world ships, and we can avoid unnecessary bloodshed. The general's response came in the form of energy beams thick as mountains, erupting from the world ship's main weapons. The blasts could have destroyed entire planets. But the human fleet was ready. All ships, execute Formation Delta, Walker commanded. Show them what we've been practicing for. What happened next defied everything the Coalition knew about space warfare. The human ships moved in perfect synchronization, forming complex geometric patterns. As the massive energy beams approached, the fleet split into smaller groups, each executing precise maneuvers. Sir, Lieutenant Cooper called out. All battle groups report ready for Ultimate Unity Protocol. Walker nodded. Begin the sequence. Let's show them why Earth's survival rate against alien invasions stands at 100%. The human ships began to merge, not just within their battle groups, but across the entire fleet. Metal flowed like water, energy fields interconnected, and systems combined in ways that made the Coalition observers gasp in disbelief. Where dozens of ships had been, now stood something new. Something impossible. A human ship larger than the world ships themselves. By the eternal stars, General Cax whispered. What have you done? The massive human vessel hung in space, its surface rippling with stored energy. Every part of it was alive with technology, every system working in perfect harmony. The ship's name appeared on its bow in glowing letters. Humanity's Unity. You see, General, Walker explained, as his command bridge expanded to accommodate the combined crews of the entire fleet. Those tiny ships you mocked. They were designed from the start to be part of something greater, just like humanity itself. The world ships fired again, their combined firepower enough to shatter planets. But the humanity's unity moved with impossible grace for its size. Its adaptive hull absorbed the energy attacks, growing stronger with each blast. "Sir," Commander Reynolds reported from his expanded tactical station, "all systems are functioning at 1,000% capacity. The unity field is stable." Walker stood from his command chair, watching as the coalition world ships tried desperately to maintain formation. "You know what's truly ironic, General? We built our ships this way because we were tired of being underestimated. Tired of being seen as weak, because we chose efficiency over size." The humanity's Unity's hull began to glow with stored energy. Millions of drones emerged from its surface, forming complex patterns that created energy fields strong enough to contain the power of stars. "All weapons ready," Cooper announced. "Targeting systems locked on all world ships." "This is your final warning, General," Walker's voice carried across all channels. "Your world ships are impressive, but they're relics of the past, built to intimidate through size alone. Our ship represents humanity's greatest strength, our ability to work together, to adapt, to become more than the sum of our parts." The world ship's response was another barrage of energy weapons. The humanity's unity didn't even try to dodge. Instead, its adaptive hull absorbed the attacks, converting them into more power. "Very well," Walker sighed. "Lieutenant Cooper, disable their primary systems. Minimum force necessary." The massive human ship moved with impossible speed. Energy beams no thicker than needles shot out, striking precise points on each world ship. One by one, the mighty vessels went dark, their power systems overloaded by surgical strikes that bypassed all their defenses. In less than a minute, the pride of the coalition fleet hung helpless in space. "How?" General Cax's voice was barely a whisper. "How can you have this much power?" "Because we never stopped learning," Walker replied. "Never stopped adapting. Every war, every battle, every challenge made us stronger, made us better." He paused, looking at the disabled world ships. "Now shall we discuss a new balance of power in the galaxy, one based on capability rather than size?" The silence that followed was answer enough. The age of underestimating humanity had come to an end. 1 month after the Battle of the World Ships, the Coalition High Council chamber looked very different. The once towering seats of the council members had been modified to form a perfect circle, with the human delegation's seats at the same height as everyone else's. Admiral Walker stood in the center of the chamber, his dress uniform gleaming under the lights. The massive form of the humanity's unity could be seen through the chamber's transparent dome, its adaptive hull reflecting the light of distant stars. "The terms are simple," Walker addressed the council. "Humanity requests equal membership in the coalition, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." General Cax, now serving as a military advisor rather than a commander, spoke up. "Equal membership? After you disabled our strongest ships? After we proved that strength isn't measured by size," Walker corrected him. "And yes, equal membership, nothing more, nothing less." The Mind Elder floated forward in his gravity chair. "Tell us, Admiral Walker, why did humanity develop such unique ships? The truth, please." Walker smiled, activating a holographic display in the chamber center. It showed Earth, but not as it was now. Instead, it showed Earth's history, centuries of warfare, struggle, and finally, unity. "We built these ships because we had to," he explained. "Earth's resources were limited. We couldn't afford to build massive fleets like yours. So we did what humanity does best. We adapted." The hologram shifted to show the first human space vessels. "Our ships are small because they need to be efficient. They combine because we learned that working together makes us stronger. They adapt because that's how humanity survived countless challenges." Lieutenant Cooper, standing beside her admiral, activated another display showing the restored world ships, We even helped repair your vessels using our technology, because that's what allies do. The council members murmured among themselves. The builder representative spoke next. And the self-replicating drones, the adaptive hull technology. How did you develop these? Necessity, Commander Reynolds answered from Walker's other side. Earth faced many invasion attempts before we reached the stars. Each time we learned, adapted, improved. And now, Walker continued, we offer that knowledge to the coalition, not as conquerors, but as partners, equal partners. The chamber fell silent as the council members considered this. Finally, the High Admiral of the Swift stood. A vote has been called, he announced, on the matter of human membership in the coalition. One by one, the council members voted, some eagerly, remembering how the humans had repaired their ships instead of destroying them. Others more reluctantly, but with respect born from recent experience. The vote is unanimous, the High Admiral declared. Humanity is welcomed as a full member of the coalition. Walker nodded, but he wasn't finished. There's one more thing. A gift to demonstrate our commitment to this partnership. He pressed a button on his uniform. Outside, the humanity's unity began to change. Parts of its massive form separated, transforming into smaller vessels that still maintained the adaptive technology. These ships moved to position themselves near each coalition world's defense fleet. Teaching ships, Walker explained, each one carrying the knowledge of our technology, ready to help upgrade and improve coalition defenses, because a true alliance means sharing strength, not hoarding it. General Cax stood suddenly. You would give us your technology. After you underestimated us. Yes. Walker smiled. Because that's what humans do. We learn from the past and work toward a better future. The council chamber erupted in appreciative murmurs. The Mind Elder spoke one final time. Perhaps we were not wrong to mock your tiny fleet, Admiral Walker. For if we had not, we might never have learned this valuable lesson. And what lesson is that? Walker asked, though he already knew the answer. That true strength lies not in size or numbers, but in adaptation, unity, and the wisdom to know when to fight. The elder paused, his ancient eyes twinkling, and when to make peace. As the chamber filled with the sounds of agreement and celebration, Walker looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting for news. He would tell them that humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or intimidation, but by being exactly what they had always been, adaptable, resourceful, and most importantly, united. The coalition had mocked their tiny fleet, but in doing so, they had helped forge an alliance that would change the galaxy forever.